So, what can we say about Alberta Innovates? They are our most trusted partner. We share insights on strategies and even share staff members. We work closely on advancing projects through the various stages of technology readiness and ensure the best projects in Alberta reach the market. So with that, I would like to welcome Brian and Pej from Alberta Innovates.
Okay, good morning and thank you very much. So first, to manage expectations, Zoe is always a tough act to follow. She brings such a good energy. If you've seen me present before, I usually try to bring innovation to my delivery. Unfortunately, today I've been saddled with the corporate slide deck, so I'll do my best, but it's not my typical approach here. So I'm Brian Helfenbaum. I'm Executive Director of Advanced Hydrocarbons in the Clean Resources Division, and my colleague Pej hails from the Investments Division, and so he'll do the back end of this and talk more about that area. So to the uninitiated, just a little bit of background. Again, the obligatory corporate slides. So Alberta Innovates is really designed to be the catalyst, the convener, the service provider of innovation in the province of Alberta. We have 2 offices in Calgary, 2 in Edmonton, and others scattered around the province. And of course, a lot of our service delivery is provided by our subsidiaries of Innotech Alberta and Seafer Technologies, who have ample lab space and engineering services. We've been around roughly 100 years, and we've been there for huge innovative moments, probably the most famous in the oil sands, initially with mining and the development of SAGD, but we've been there for so many other big moments of innovation in this province for the last century. And we are fundamentally a convener and connector, we're a partner and collaborator, and of course the reason you're here, we are a funder. We provide coaching, we provide a lot of different services beyond just capital, but of course capital is what typically gets people in the door, so we'll spend most of the time talking about that. And then, some numbers to, compete with the other funders that are sharing the stage here. We have a lot of projects going on. Our total portfolio value exceeds $1 billion. That's not our contribution, but that is the total projects. So we, again, are a catalyst of some very significant opportunities here. And we work with a lot of different people, right? And we deal with hundreds, thousands of individuals and organizations all the time. If we're not already talking to you, then please come and tell us why we should. We don't know what we don't know, so come tell us what it is that we don't know. So organizationally, those of us that are here from AI today primarily come from the clean energy side of things, but you should know that we also have a very strong health division, primarily operating out of Edmonton, and then our PSI Emerging Tech and Investments division, from which Pej hails. And of course, our subsidiaries, Innotech and Seafer. So the Clean Energy Group a couple years ago was merged with our Agriculture Group to create what we now call the Clean Resources Division. And we're split into these technology portfolio areas, and I'll talk through each of these, basically one slide on each of the portfolio areas to give you a sense of the kinds of programming that we have. And as Isabella mentioned, we also spend a lot of time supporting our besties, Emissions Reduction Alberta. We provide evaluation services and project management services. So if you've worked with ERA, you may have already worked with somebody from Alberta Innovates. Okay, so I'm going to go through the different program areas here at a pretty high level. I'll start with the Advanced Hydrocarbons Group. This is my team. I think this is my least visually appealing slide in the whole deck, and I feel like there's a self-deprecating joke in there somewhere, but I'll work on that for next time. So fundamentally, this is anything to do with hydrocarbons. So we have our Cleaner Hydrocarbon Production Program. What are some cleaner, cheaper, better, innovative ways of getting hydrocarbon out of the ground? So we're talking about recovery technologies, as well as methane emissions reduction, which has been a prominent program and really a great success story for Western Canada, as well as digital oil fields. So your AI, machine learning, blockchain, augmented reality, drones, all your favorite digital buzzwords. We are doing a lot in the digital innovation space under this program. And then the other one is the innovative hydrocarbon products. So once we've got those hydrocarbons out of the ground, what can we do with them that is better, cheaper, more valuable than what we're doing with them today? So partial upgrading, and then one of our flagship programs of bitumen beyond combustion. Can we convert bitumen into materials instead of fuels? Things like carbon fiber, asphalt binder, activated carbon, carbon nanotubes, graphene, high-value carbon materials. The future of our world is going to have a lot of carbon in it, but hopefully it's carbon in solid form, not gaseous form. Then we have our clean technology group. This is led by the inimitable Heather Campbell here. And of course, clean tech is the theme of the day, but everyone defines the word clean tech differently. And so this is how we fund it. We have 4 different pillars here: carbon capture, utilization, storage, and hydrogen, both of which areas are extremely hot right now, and I'll talk a bit more about hydrogen shortly. We have our bioenergy and circular economy group. So biofuels, waste conversion, basically can we take our waste and turn it into products that have more value. The electricity side, so grid modernization, energy storage, and electricity generation. A good example here is the growing prominence of small modular nuclear reactors and Alberta's growing interest in dipping our toe into that space. And then finally, the critical minerals and emerging technology. Critical minerals like petrolithium, other mining and rare earth opportunities, and then of course the catch-all of emerging technologies, because again, we don't know what we don't know, so what are some cool clean tech opportunities that we don't have named on this slide that we should? So come tell us. Bit of a diversion here, so a drill down into the Hydrogen Center of Excellence. So this is a program launched just earlier this year. The government of Alberta recognized that this was a generational opportunity for hydrogen in this province, or indeed in this country, and a $50 million restricted grant was provided to AI to launch the Center of Excellence. So we have technology funding programs happening right now. We are funding capital to build facilities to do testing in a hydrogen environment, and we have continuous intake for everything else, for studies, for life cycle analyses, ecosystem development, public awareness, that education, and of course the development of codes and standards, which are sadly lacking to develop a hydrogen economy right now, which is what we want to do. So lots of exciting things going on in this space right now, both within AI and of course the build out of the hydrogen hub around Edmonton and other nodes around Canada. Next we have Environmental Innovation Portfolio led by Dr. Brett Purdy, who you met earlier. And so much of what we've talked about already has been focused on GHG reduction. We don't talk enough about the other environmental impacts of water and land. And so here, we're really trying to focus on the site closure and reclamation from our energy activities, tailings reduction and repurposing, biodiversity and environmental monitoring. And then finally, on the water side, we go beyond the industry and look at municipalities as well for providing healthy water, new water technologies, and water quality protection for Albertans. Now, that's on the energy side. I'm going to dangerously talk about an area that I don't know as much about, which is on the agriculture side. And if energy has a rich history in Alberta, agriculture's is even longer and perhaps bigger. We have a huge amount of farmland and a huge amount of opportunity here that employs a lot of people in the agriculture sector. And so we have programming at AI in this space as well. And so there's a fair bit on this slide, but we have our continuous intake in agri-food and bioindustrial innovation. And so we're always looking for opportunities here. And then we have some specialty calls. So chronic wasting disease is an issue in Alberta and in fact internationally as well. And we support research activities to get better outcomes here, as well as Agriculture Funding Consortium, as well as the Ecosystem Development Partnerships Program. So a number of different opportunities in the agri-food innovation space. And then finally, the bioindustrial materials. So can we take our forestry products and upscale them and add value to provide better, more useful products? Green building is a bit of a buzzword right now, and so we support all sorts of activities in the green building space to provide better efficiency, residential and commercial buildings. Okay, so that was a very quick and high-level rundown of our programming. It covers quite a bit of area. Now let's talk a little bit about how we actually fund these different programs. So first off, I'll say the must-haves. If you want to look for funding from Alberta Innovates, we need to see alignment with at least one of the different programs that you saw there. We often see alignment with multiple. If you're not sure, come talk to us. If you think back to the first slide that Isabella showed in terms of where we play in the ecosystem, we are really in that mid-stage, TRL 3 to 7, or the valley of death, right? As you start to scale up from a lab scale to a prototype to a first scale pilot. And we're really there to help get those innovations through that valley of death, because it starts to become too expensive for academia, but it's still too risky for industry or venture to really make a significant investment. So that's really the role that we play in that middle scale. We provide grants of up to 50% of costs, and I'll say our sweet spot is typically $100,000 to $1 million. We do have a fast track process for $200,000 and under, so we do see a lot of grants at exactly that $200,000 mark. We look for evidence of market pull. So these are earlier stage opportunities, but we need to see a customer engaged somehow. Hopefully they're a partner, ideally a funding partner, maybe they're providing you with a site, maybe they're just providing a letter of support. But we need to understand that there is an actual market for the innovation that you're looking to do. And of course, we need to see commercial potential in Alberta. Now, should-haves, we like to see partnerships, typically with those end users, often with academia as well. We really want to see a project team that can fill all those gaps. And of course, we want to create jobs and training opportunities for Albertans. Now, something that's a little bit different between ourselves and some of the other funders, including Pej's group that you hear about shortly, is we are agnostic to who you are. Whether you are a professor, whether you are the CEO of a multinational enterprise, whether you live in your mom's basement working on an idea. I guess they're not mutually exclusive. You could be all three. We don't really care who you are as long as you've got a good idea and an ability to execute it. So you don't need to be a smaller medium enterprise, a smaller medium company, but you can be. The other thing is we don't fund companies, we fund projects. The project has a beginning and an end. If you're a small company, you might really be defined by a single project, but we're funding that project, not the company. So how do we evaluate the proposals that come in? We can split it into three basic categories. First up is the innovation opportunity. So how novel is this? And what is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the market? And though we are not funding a commercial activity, what is your pathway to get to commerciality? We need to understand that it is a well-thought and logical process to get there. Next is the execution, right? Are you going to be able to do what it is you say you want to do? What is your work plan? What are your KPIs? Where is the balance of funding coming from? Is it secured? Is it not? Who is on your project team? Do you have the right technical and business and commercial expertise to pull off what it is you want to pull off? And finally, do you have a good understanding of the technical and the non-technical risks and mitigation opportunities identified? And then finally, the outcomes. What are the economic, environmental, and social benefits to Alberta, to Canada, to the world? We'd like to understand that when we evaluate your proposal. So we basically have two different approaches. You know, many of the funders that you hear from today have open competitions, and we have those too. Those are calls for proposals, and they typically come about because of two main opportunities. One is when the government of Alberta has determined that there is a specific opportunity and they provide us with a restricted grant to run a competition. Two recent examples, we had the TIER economic recovery. So if we go back about a year and a half when the economy was in the toilet, the government of Alberta said we need to do something to activate the economy, and they provided a grant of $50 million, and we were able to very quickly turn that into a competition and deploy money. And hey, economy recovered, so mission accomplished. So I'm not sure we can take full credit for that. Another good example is the Hydrogen Center of Excellence, right, where a generational opportunity has been identified and money has been deployed. Now, the other times that we have open competitions are kind of the other end of the spectrum, where Alberta Innovates has identified a niche but really important strategic opportunity that we want to draw attention to. So two good examples here, the Carbon Fiber Grand Challenge. I talked about converting bitumen into carbon fiber. We think this is an opportunity as big or bigger than hydrogen, but there's not enough people working on it yet. So we run a competition to work on that and to try to bring in experts to work in that space. Another one is on the digital side. Again, trying to draw opportunities there. And so those are smaller competitions, but more niche plays, whereas the other ones are a bit broader. Now, the open competitions are well known. We publicize them a lot. You'll see them splashed on LinkedIn and elsewhere. But actually, how we operate 90% of the time is through continuous intake. We recognize that the timing of your project probably doesn't align perfectly to the day we happen to launch an open competition. So we are ready when you are ready. And so it all starts with a phone call. When you have an opportunity that you want to talk to us about, we have a continuous intake program that is perpetually open for business. So in terms of how the funding process works, so first I'll talk through the open competitions. Many of you are familiar with this. You know, we launch it, and then we give proponents about 8 weeks to submit their expression of interest. We'll take about a month to evaluate those and screen them down. When we do competitions like the Tier Shovel Ready, we will receive hundreds of applications, and it's just not practical to do a deep dive into the hundreds of applications. So we use the EOI to screen them down to a shorter list, and then we invite that short list to submit the full proposals. And these are meatier, more significant documents. Takes us a little bit longer to review them, and then we go into contracting. So typically, this is what we do for larger funding. When we have these smaller calls for proposals, so Carbon Fiber Grand Challenge, we don't receive hundreds of applications, so we can actually remove an entire stage here and move a lot faster. Same with the digital competition. Digital projects move too fast. They will go stale if it takes us 30 weeks to be able to get through a process, so we eliminate a stage as well and do them a lot faster. So we may simplify this, but this is typically how we do our open competitions. Now, as I said, most of what we do is through continuous intake, and this moves a lot faster. We'll have an initial meeting. Again, give us a call. We'll have a chat, decide, is this going to be a good use of your time and hours before you put pen to paper. Then we'll get you to write an intake form. This is a pretty non-threatening document that takes a couple days to put together. We can evaluate that and turn it around typically within a week, just to get a sense of, okay, there's something here. So throw it back to you to then fill out a full proposal. We can review that proposal and go into contracting. If we're dealing with a proposal that's under $200,000 and you don't have layers and layers of governance and a 50-person legal department waiting to review everything, we can do this in a couple, 3 months. We can move pretty damn fast. However, if it's a larger proposal, a lot more complex, and we're dealing with a multinational organization, it can take, a few months longer. Finally, I've been going pretty fast, but trying to make time for Pej here. These are the executive directors for the 5 different portfolio areas. Feel free to take a picture of this screen, reach out and have a conversation with us anytime you want to. The email address is set up there at the bottom. Really, it always starts with a conversation and the building of a relationship, and that's certainly been a theme among everyone you've heard from today. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Pej to take us through the next section.
Hi everyone, I'm Pej Ganapur. I'm a technology development advisor here based here in Calgary. I'm one of 10 TDAs across the province, and we provide coaching, mentoring, and guidance to funding at Alberta Innovates. I joined Alberta Innovates earlier this year, so this is my first Alberta Innovates presentation, so bear with me. So at EI, we fund companies in every sector. So unlike my colleagues in Clean Resources, where they fund projects and de-risk technologies, our focus is more on the companies themselves. We try to de-risk the business and make sure that these companies are scaling and growing here in Alberta and staying here. So if you pay attention to the graphics there, it just shows the typical entrepreneurial journey that starts with discovery and ideating, and then you finally put a team together and commit to creating a prototype, and that's where the valley of death begins. That's when you try to test your technology, test your market, and see if your assumptions are validated or not. And that's where there isn't a lot of investments by VCs because it's too risky for them, and that's where we come in with most of our programs. We have a whole host of programs. I can't get into all of them here, but depending on what the needs are, whether it's patenting, whether it's R&D associates that you need to hire, or business or salespeople you need to hire, or CFO, or we have a program for you. We can also help you export technologies outside of province. So I'll just give you an overview of our terms and conditions for our different programs. Most of our programs are continuous intake, so the best way to approach it is to talk to one of us TDAs. We can help guide you to which program is the right program for you. But they start anywhere from $10,000 to $250,000, and they're between 6 months to 18 months projects. Most of our programs, we only require 25% contribution from the applicant. So for every dollar you put in towards a project, we put in $3. Basic eligibility areas similar to what Brian was talking about. We need you to be at least TRL 3, but we go all the way to TRL 9, so we could be fully commercial and we can still be working with you. We need you to have a novel technology in any field. It could be clean tech, manufacturing, software, but it has to be novel and innovative. And then you have to be an Alberta-based SME. And our definition of SME is less than 500 people and less than $50 million in revenues. And then, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the goal is to just de-risk the technology and to hopefully get the VCs interested in your technology by the end of the time, by the time we are done with funding you. We also realize that, as I said, we do need, entrepreneurs do need private capital, do need angel investors, do need VCs. And last year, to meet that need, we selected 5 accelerators and incubators here in town in Alberta, the 500, the Strive, STUEG, the Catalyzer, Plug and Play, and the TELUS CSWA. And these all play in different sectors, and they fund different stages of companies and technologies. But again, a TDA would be a right person to talk to decide which one of these might be suitable for you to enter. And they basically help connect you with global partners, global capital, and provide you mentorship and workshops and all sorts of things. By the numbers here, so for every dollar we have invested into SMEs, they have been able to get $7 in more than $6 in revenues, and for every dollar we have put into SMEs, they have also been able to raise more than $25 from both public and private sources afterwards. So the Alberta ecosystem, and the way we work with clients is we have 8 regional innovation networks across the province. Each innovation network has a group of accelerators, local incubators, post-secondary institutions, or other community partners that they work with. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, there's 10 of us TDAs that work closely with these regional innovation networks and basically help ensure that these entrepreneurs that we work with have access to resources across the province or just simply locally in their own neighborhoods. The best way to get a hold of us is to just fill out our intake form, connect with us at albertainnovates.ca. They will connect you with one of the TDAs across the province, myself or someone else. And then, yeah, we'll help you guide you through your application and potentially review it before you submit it. So our applications usually take, by the time from around 6 to 10 weeks for us to review your application, and probably 2 weeks after that to actually go through the processing of paying you. So within 3 months, you should be getting the check in your door, assuming it's approved. Lastly, I'll leave you with to let you know that Invertu's registration is up which is the D event to be. So make sure you register for that. Thanks, you guys.